Good afternoon. My name is Brayden. I'm going to be your tour guide today. Welcome to the Docent Museum of Arts. Before we enter the galleries, I'd like to ask you just one simple question, okay? So when I say Plains Indians, what comes to your mind?
Buffalo.
Buffalo? Okay.
Native Americans.
Some Native Americans, okay?
Teepees.
Teepees.
Feathers.
Feathers. What else? They're all good answers. Art, okay, very good. So we have teepees, feathers, buffalo, Native Americans, and art. Anything else?
Nomadic tribes.
Nomadic tribes.
Hunters.
Hunters.
The Plains.
The plains. All right, these are all great things, okay? So, you're right. A lot of things you talk about, many people think about when they think about Plains Indians. Buffalo, teepees. They are one of many different Native American groups. They live on the plains. They were nomadic hunters. Okay? But one thing I want you to think about when we go on this tour is to think about Plains Indians as also modern people. Okay? You go to school, you work with, you live in towns in which Plains Indians also live. Okay? So they're contemporary people. However, many of them do have connections to their past traditions. Many of them are connected to the buffalo, connected to the teepee, connected to past art forms, which we'll be talking about today. And I really like your answer, art. What would you think of art? Yeah, it's pretty obvious. William Nelson Atkins, so we're going on that tour of art. So exactly, Plains Indians were artists. Okay? Not a lot of people think about them as artists. They think about them as warriors, which I didn't hear, or medicine men, or chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs. Okay? I didn't hear that. We heard artists. Okay, so that's really good. So Plains Indian artists, they've been making art for a very long time, which we'll see in the exhibition, from prehistoric all the way to present. They are grounded in these past traditions of teepee painters, of buffalo pipe painters, of a nomadic lifestyle. Okay, you'll see art that reflects a nomadic lifestyle. And then they're also artists today. Okay. So before we go in the galleries, I want to challenge you to think about that simple fact that Plains Indians are artists who are grounded in these past artistic traditions, but are also contemporary artists in which they express individual ideas through different materials, forms, and styles, okay? Before we go in the galleries, I want to quick review a few things. So this is a 4-stop tour. At each stop, we're going to spend about 15 minutes. I'm going to break you guys into groups of 10 to 15. You're going to accompany me or another docent into the gallery. This exhibition, like I said, is the Plains Indians, Artists of Earth and Sky. So we're going to see material from Plains Indians all the way from prehistoric, thousands of years ago, to contemporary, so within the last decade. At each stop, there'll be a time for you to look at the art by yourself, or with a group or a friend. This is a time for you to explore the art by yourselves. There'll be time for large group discussions, small group conversations, and then an activity. There are no right or wrong answers. Like I told you, this is a very active, participatory-based tour. There's no right or wrong answer. As you guys shown, you're very able, very willing to give your ideas and your thoughts, and that's going to make this tour successful. A few general rules, because we are in an art museum. There's a lot of art around us, very old. I know you guys know this, but please avoid touching, sneezing, licking any of the art. That's generally discouraged. Also, many of them are protected by cases. Again, if you lick them, if you touch them, someone will have to clean that up. Okay, so let's avoid that. At each stop, we're going to be in an individual space. As you can see, there's also people touring the gallery, so if we stay in our space, we keep our conversations loud enough for everyone to hear, but quiet enough for the whole museum to not hear would be okay. All right? And like you guys did here, you guys listen to each other. You didn't talk over each other. Since it's going to be very active-based, that's a good model for what we can do for the rest of the tour. Okay? Are there any questions before we get going? All right. So this group is going to come with me, and we're going to go to our first stop. Okay? You guys don't need to form a line. I'm sure you guys can follow me. we're going to spend the next 5 minutes just looking and talking about the art of this space. So for the first 2 minutes, individually or with a partner, I want you to look at objects. Look at these two objects, this winter count and this painted robe over here, okay? After 2 minutes, I'm going to bring you back in the group and we're just going to discuss your general observations, your thoughts, your likes, your dislikes, things like that, okay? Like I said, let's stay within these two, let's stay within this space. Look closely at the art, but not so close enough that you'll bump your head on the case or, I don't know, something else. Touch the art, damage the case, okay, anything like that, okay? So let's spend about 2 minutes just looking around in this area. Some of these guys are noticing.
Like on the top, like towards like the middle, like the middle row. It's like it seems like it's like pilgrims and like Europeans and stuff. But then opposite them, it's like Native Americans.
Okay, yeah.
There's some like box or something around here.
It's kind of like a storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are colors, but not on people's faces or the background.
Yeah, it's like arbitrary use of color, like horses are green stuff.
Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you. All right, what about you guys? Anything specific you noticing over here? What are your first impressions?
It's very worn.
Very worn, okay.
Yeah,
Looks like blood on the side.
You said blood?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're picking up that it's pretty old?
I've never seen drawings a lot like these before, but they look like I think somebody could have done them today. Yeah, this looks like
Okay, where I remember the description of that,
yeah.
it's kind of, like, it looks like some of it looks like something that would run.
So not what you expected from bringing that?
Very simple.
Very simple.
I mean, obviously not a simple scene, but it's the drawing is also
Like the trace hands. What is that?
It's interesting that it's a dress.
I've never seen one.
Yes, drawing on the dress like this.
Yeah.
I just think of beaded art.
Is it like a head on buffalo?
All right, guys, talking to you individually and in small groups, you had a lot of good observations, okay? So just really simply, what's going on with these two artworks? What connects them? What makes them different from each other? What are your general impressions?
The drawing style, I think, is similar.
Okay, so you're noticing the drawing style is similar. Can you, what makes you say that?
I guess just the perspective of the drawings and the profile,
Okay.
and like the material used to draw it. I
Okay.
don't know what the actual word is, but
So you're noticing you're noticing the perspective of the artist, using different profile perspective, and also similar materials used for creating the drawings. Great. What else can we find? What else did we notice?
There's similar use of color.
Okay.
And they seem to be telling stories.
Okay, so you're connecting with color and also story. I know someone over here said, let me connect with color first. An arbitrary use of color? What did you see that made you say that?
I think I said that.
Okay.
Just because, like, horses, like the colored horse is green, and people just all different colors, and horses aren't green.
Yeah, so you're noticing that there's a green horse. Generally, the buffalo I see are brown, and there's a white buffalo. But there's a yellow horse, there's a blue horse, okay? So the use of color, you're noticing that doesn't really fit with what you would expect a horse to look like.
Yeah.
And generally the people, someone commented that their faces are white, but their dresses and their coats are different colors. Great. And then going back, sorry, you were saying they tell a story. What do you see that makes you say it's telling a story?
There's lots of different interactions, and it looks like things that would actually be happening to the people, not just one snapshot.
Right. So you're noticing not one, so we're looking at pictures, and you're not noticing just one image, but you're looking at interactions between different characters. I know someone over here commented on the line that they seem to think indicated the storyboard. So yeah, there's definitely noticing some storytelling, some narrative going on. And I think that's a good place to move on to our activity, because Plains Indian art, especially these pictographic dresses and winter counts, they tell us a lot about the people, places, and time in which they were created. And in fact, there is a strong oral narrative connected with this type of drawing. Okay? So these figural images, I know people talked about them as being simplistic. I've heard them described as stick figures before, but these are figural representational images, okay? So these really look like what they're supposed to look like. They're not abstract. They look like people. They look like horses, except for the colors. And they were created to record personal autobiographical moments, okay? So these do tell a story of different events within the life of that person, okay? Paired with these stories, these paintings, they give substance to Plains Indian mythology and also histories. So a lot of that, what we know about Plains Indian mythologies and histories come from these oral narratives tied to these artworks. And it was the artist and the elder who passed down these stories to generations so they could be retold and remembered. Okay? So art is key, and art is tied to remembering histories. This artwork was the sole domain of male artists. Okay? So someone mentioned that they were expecting beadwork. That's the domain of another area of artists, which we'll talk about later. But these pictographic representational images were made by male artists. And details such as color, which we talked about, maybe hairstyle, and also different accessories, those were used to help the artist identify who the person was. Did they have a higher status? Did they belong to a different group? Things like that. And that was really important because, as you can see, many of the figures have very similar body shapes. In fact, many of them have a trapezoidal body shape, which was common for Plains Indian art from this time period. So the activity we're going to do will help us think about how important events in Plains Indian life were recorded. Okay, I'm going to pass out. Excuse me. I'm going to pass out pencils. And a story analysis card, okay? On one end, so what your responsibility is you're going to think about yourself as the artist, okay? So as the artist, you have to create images, but also remember and tell a story that's associated with that image, okay? So on the right side, you are presented with a trapezoidal figure, okay? No head, no arms, no legs, no nothing. I want you, as the artist, to identify the main character from either this robe or from this winter count, okay? And I want you to draw in the facial features, if they have any accessories like a shield, like a bow, if they're riding a horse, anything like that. So you're identifying the main character. Following up on that, I want you to write a couple sentences, the story from that main character's perspective, okay? Because the oral tradition combined with the artwork is essential into remembering the meaning of these works, okay? Are there any questions before we get started? Okay? So if you want to pass one out, take one, pass one out, I'll get you a pencil and clipboard. Take a clipboard and pass them out. Grab a pencil and pass it out. We have some clipboards. All right, so once you have a clipboard, once you have a pencil, once you have your sheet, I want you to locate one of the two artworks, identify the main character, draw in the features of the main character, and then write a short narrative to go with that, okay? We're going to have about 7 minutes to complete this activity, okay? All right. If you have any questions, if you have trouble picking the artwork, let me know. And we're going to start with the other side. I need a clipboard. All right. Well,
Good deal.
no, use this as the final. So that's the torso, the trapezoid torso. Sorry about that. If you put your finishing touches on your character and start moving over to your story from that character's perspective, okay? You have about 2 minutes left. most of your writing. Let's finish up here in the next minute or so. Some of you are still finishing up, but is there anyone who would like to share both their main character and then also the story that they wrote to accompany it? Does anyone want to share?
I'll share. Okay, my story's not very good, but
That's fine.
so I chose turn your head upside down, and then on the second row,
Okay.
the chief on the horse.
Okay. Can you show us your drawing too?
You want to see it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad. Okay, don't laugh at me, guys. It's really bad.
That's
but-
fine.
They're all judging you really harshly.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
So
my
chief on a
chief
horse.
on his horse.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
he's basically saying that he's the chief of his tribe and he has to provide and protect his people, and no man will stand in his way.
All right. So I see you identified him as a chief. What did you see that made you say he was a chief?
His headdress.
Okay. And I saw that you incorporated that in your drawing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Great. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to share their story? Yeah. Oh, we'll do both of you and then.
So I thought the main character was the buffalo,
Okay.
and then this is my entire thing is like the buffalo. I only see it like a few times in there,
Uh-huh.
so I think it's not as reoccurring as all the people. And then my story was as the buffalo goes, everybody follows, and
Okay.
it creates like a cycle because these are like nomadic people, so they follow the buffalo and stuff like that.
So you're picking up on the importance of the buffalo, specifically because you only see it a few times, whereas in most of this you see a lot of different people.
Yeah.
You're connecting that with the nomadic lifestyle, the importance of the buffalo, which we talked about earlier. Great. Marison, your last one? That's your character? Okay.
Yeah, I do like the dude in the green with like the stick in his hand with feathers on it.
Okay.
Yeah, like for my story, he's like some kind of spiritual leader and he's like blessing the other person like on his mission, like if he's going to war,
Okay.
just blessing him.
And the evidence for him being a spiritual leader?
Because he has like paintings on his face and the feathers on the stick.
Okay. So you're noticing the stick as maybe a ceremonial object and the face painting as representing he's a medicine man or a spiritual leader. Great. Great. So yeah, a lot of your drawings, you picked up on the fact that, well, I provided you with the trapezoidal figure torso. I mean, you added the details that made them significant characters, whether that's a chief, whether that's a medicine man, whether that's the buffalo, okay? So we talked about color. These accessories, they're very important because, like I said, these objects tell us about stories. And the figures were used to tell stories about specific events or events over a long time. And they would present different characters with different hairstyles, with different accessories like shields, like a medicine stick, like a feathered headdress, to help them remember, to help them document these significant events. And I also heard you guys talk about specific stories centered around these. So I had all of you guys write stories, and you picked up on this really good. You talked about the importance of the buffalo and how a buffalo hunt, or maybe even a white buffalo, would be an event that you would want to remember because it provided food for your people or it had some spiritual significance. Or remembering a specific event in which a medicine man blessed the community, or documenting the heroics of a chief. Okay, that's what these objects did. Whether that's documenting the war exploits of an individual over their lifetime, or even documenting the life of a community over decades or hundreds of years. Okay? These pictorial representational images combined with these details really helped Plains Indian people record significant events, whether that's personal events, community events, or religious events. Okay? So you guys did great. If you want to put your names quickly on those sheets before we move on, and then I will take your pencils and your clipboards, and then I can hold on to your sheets as well. So just drop those in there. So drop your pencils. Yep, you drop those in there. All right. Again, guys, we're going to take about 5 minutes to look and talk about the art in this section. For the first 2 minutes, it's your free time. Look at whatever objects you want. Talk with a friend, a classmate about what you're seeing. Let's try to stay within the parameters of the shirt and the headdress to the medicine bag, and then from the weapons through the bags, okay? After those first few minutes, we're going to take 3 minutes to talk about our observations, okay? Think about what connects the objects together. Think about how they're related to the objects we just saw. And just, spend 2 minutes, and then we'll move from there, okay?
Oh, wait, no?
I saw you guys go right to the glasses. What about them? Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Not until a certain point. Yeah, the numbers just pretty significant, and then the glasses are, yeah, you can see that they are contemporary. Yeah. Just kind of showing that there is a continuity of style between the current glasses taking a modern form, glasses being recently mentioned, the bag, which were probably being made for hundreds of years before. It's All right, guys, I know you are having some great conversations, so let's bring it back to the main group and let's continue those. So just in general, what's going on in this gallery? What are your impressions of the art here? Yes.
Oh, was I
Sorry.
saying it? We're not in there.
You can raise your hand.
Lots of detailed beadwork.
Okay, so you're seeing a lot of detailed beadwork. Any specific designs you noticed over there?
There's a lot of triangles and like, what's the word?
Like geometric?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah, so you're noticing the geometric designs, triangles, some squares. Yeah, great. What else is going on?
It's all functional.
Great, so, sorry?
Yeah, well, I mean bags and weapons
Okay.
and things of that nature.
Yeah, so we have a lot of functional artwork here. You have weapons over this way, spears, clubs, and you have bags, okay, over here. What else? What else are our general impressions? Or
I like how it has a lot of detail within everything, like all like little stuff. You can look like on like this thing right here, it's like the little braid going down the back, or like the tying of the hair. And then like it has like the porcupine quills on like the tobacco bag, or the details in the headdress. I like how they took the time to make sure that if you like look at it more intense, it's you see a lot of different stuff.
yeah, so you're noticing the detail in all these different objects, whether that's connecting that with functional objects. So these are functional objects for maybe everyday use, maybe ceremonial use, but yet the artist took time to incorporate detail, whether that's an individual braid or different materials on the horse effigy stick over there, or specific beaded, very small beaded designs on those bags, okay? And that really connects to the individual artist and the artist expressing their identity, okay? So Plains Indian art was, like we said, was created by these artists, they express their identity through their art. Not just their individual identity, but their group affiliation, maybe their gender, could be their social status, maybe even their political rank in society, okay? So art was connected deeply to identity. And so when I say the word identity, okay, just in a general term, what does identity mean to you? Yourself?
Yeah, like oneself.
Oneself, okay? Anyone? Character, okay? So you're talking about yourself, who you are, things that define you, okay? And so what are those things? Do you have any examples? Okay, things that define you. So what defines your identity beyond yourself?
Your personality.
So your personality,
How you dress.
okay?
The music you listen to.
So music you listen to, how you dress,
How others view you.
how other views,
Yeah,
so how you express yourself. So you express your identity, people view you, who you are, through how you dress, the music you listen to, okay? Another way to think about identity, you have yourself, but you're also shaped by these larger forces. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be the community. You may have a different identity growing up in Kansas City than you would in San Diego or Boston, okay? So where you live, who you associate with. So yeah, exactly, identity. Plains Indians expressed themselves, had similar complicated identities. They had gender roles, they had social structures, they had political power. Their identity was influenced by their religion, by their language, different language between groups. It's not just a town in a different state, but different language barriers. And they really expressed their identity through the details, through the artworks they created, okay? So for the activity we want to do, I need you to get into groups of 2 or 3 really quick. So just pick someone you're closest to, standing closest to. And in this activity, it's going to help us think about how Plains Indians express their identity through art. And so your challenge is, I'll give you a card, and your challenge is to pick an artwork and to create a profile of that artist just by the things that you observe, okay? Use the questions on the back to help guide your discussion with your partner, 1 or 2 partners. So basically you're thinking about, how is the object used? So what is the object and how is it used? So someone said they're functional, so you have weapons and bags. That's our first clue to the artist. What materials were used, okay? I know we've talked about beadwork, we talked about pictorial designs, drawings and the other, so that's another clue. what designs are found on there, okay? And then from that, I want you guys to brainstorm who you imagine the identity of the artist is, okay? So I'm going to give a card to each of your group. Who's your group? Okay? Group? Just 2 of you? 3 of you?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so.
Who's your group? All right, so once you have a card, go pick an artwork and use these questions to help guide your discussion. We'll have about 6 minutes for this, and then we'll come back.
No one else
at
is
the
doing
time.
pictures.
Yeah.
Are they gonna pick it?
No. You have a question? All right, guys, I see we're having a lot of good discussion. Okay, so remember your artwork. We're going to pick a few to talk about. Okay, so who would like to share the identity of their artist?
We'll share.
Okay, let's have it head over here. Okay, so let's start off. Who do you think? Who is the identity? What is the identity of your artist?
Like it's like a leader or like a military man.
Okay, so you're saying you believe that this shirt belongs to and was created by a military man or a leader. And so what do you see, what evidence do you see to make you say that? Thinking about the question that asked on the back. So like materials, design, things like that.
Okay, well like the hair, like that's human hair, and like he probably killed people and ripped their hair out and made it onto the shirt. Like I killed someone.
Okay, so you're connecting the human hair to the idea of taking scalps, of counting coup in battle to catalog your military achievements. Okay. Anything else?
It also is like very broad, like the shoulders and stuff, and it just like the torso just kind of makes you think of a man, like, you know, someone strong and
Colors. They're like bright and bold.
Okay. So you're noticing the form of the shirt being broad in the shoulders for a male artist, and you're also noticing the colors being bright and bold, maybe drawing attention to the person wearing the object. we've talked a lot about identity, and so why do you think it was important in Plains Indian culture for the wearer, you described as a leader, to wear this object? Why do you think it was important for them to express themselves with human hair, with bright colors?
It could be like a show what you kill kind of basis. Like you wear what you kill. So
Okay.
if they like killed the whole village, they would wear the whole village's hair. Or like the thing said it was like deer that they made it out of,
Uh-huh.
deer skin. So they must have killed the deer, and must have been a special deer or something. They put it on them.
Okay. So you were saying that it was important in Plains Indian culture to show your achievements. So connecting that back with the painted robe, which also documented achievements, the shirt having human hair as trophies from past achievements was also a way of showcasing your achievements. Great. You have anything else? All right. Does anybody else want to talk about the identity of their artist? Yeah. Okay.
We chose the horned headdress.
Okay, the horned headdress.
And we feel that the identity of the artist may have been a spiritual leader, somebody that like the village may have come to and in need of assistance with like medicine, or if it was just like a spiritual side, like with becoming their figuring out who they are.
Okay.
And then it says that like it transformed the person into like a horned figure, and so maybe the person made that to come more connect with their spiritual side, to be that horned figure that they knew that they were.
Okay, so you are connecting this object to a medicine man based on the horns and the fact from the label that says by putting on this headdress they transformed into this maybe mythical, supernatural creature. So they have the power, and that's important. So they have the power of that creature.
Yeah.
Anything else? What else did you notice about the object, or is that pretty much it?
There's a lot of detail put into it.
A lot of
You
detail?
have like a lot of contrasting of colors, like in the hair, it has like just the gray, and then you have like a bright blue bead going through the hair, and then you have like the geometric patterns, and then with the detail put into the top.
It makes it really personal to like the person who will wear it.
Okay. So you talked about the personal nature of this object, probably coming from someone who's very revered as a medicine man, and then having these bright colors to really make that person stand out, and then the personal detail making everyone know that that's the object, that's the headdress of this very revered person.
Yes.
Great. Anyone else? One last person want to talk about the identity of their artist.
We will.
Sure. Okay.
So, as you can see, it's like, a big, like, chieftain headdress. And
Okay.
it goes, like, all the way down to the ground. And I'm not really sure how tall it is, but it's probably pretty tall. So, the person would probably be walking around with it, like, down by their legs or something
Okay.
like that. We noticed that there are, like, those geometric shapes again. But more than that, there are the feathers, and, like, it's very natural in that sense, and it's symmetrical, like, on both sides. And then one thing that I think Jack, or maybe Jackson brought up, it was like, is the artist the wearer or the person that made it for the wearer? That is what we were wondering, like. Yeah. So
Because, like the placard talks about how like each feather represents something that the wearer would have done, whether it be like killed somebody or got a big buffalo or whatever. But
Yeah, so let me so you gave a lot of great evidence. So you said the identity of this object's owner was a chief.
yes.
You identified that by the number of feathers, the length, also the detail. The question was, who is the maker of this object? And that's a good place to transition, because a lot of times identity and art was very strict. Only certain people could work with certain media. So, for example, if you read the label on that shirt over there, that is a woman's dress. But the artwork was done by a male, because only male artists painted in these pictorial representational images. That's compared, and we didn't have anyone talk. Did anyone look at the bags? I know we've talked about geometric beading, okay? So in that sense, that artwork almost always resided in the female domain. So if you have geometric beading, okay, that was probably most likely completed by a female artist. So the identity of this artwork belongs to a chief, a male chief, but a female artist may have had her role in helping create this for the chief. Generally, when you have gender or bags like this, in which you're only working with geometric patterning, that would have been the domain of a female artist. And so, like, a lot of you guys connected the artwork to a specific individual, whether that's a leader in both cases, judging by the feathers and also the hair, and then a medicine man by the horns. Like I said, artwork was strictly regulated by your identity, whether that's your gender. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. Could be your social status. You're not going to see the average person creating or wearing a headdress, or you're not going to see probably but a select few people wearing a medicine man headdress. You can also talk about your social status, so the type of materials used, available to you, could talk about what status you belong to. And like I said, the artwork is really strictly confined based on these identity roles. In Plains Indians, I like that someone pointed out at the beginning that these are functional objects, but they are also artwork, because Plains Indian artists took time to adorn these artworks to help express who they are, both at a personal level, like we talked about earlier, who you are, but also at a larger level, like your community, your family, your group affiliation, things like that. Are there any questions before we move on? All right, so if you guys could pass forward your cards, I'll take those. Great. All right, so this is the third stop of our tour. Again, we're going to spend about 2 minutes just looking at any of the objects you want, followed by about 3 minutes of just your overall observation about the artwork in the space. We're going to stick to the parameters of the otter medicine bag, but we're going to go all the way to the fans, the cradle boards, and the shirts, okay? And there's some shield in there. So we have quite a large space to work with here, okay? So again, be careful of the artwork, be careful of the cases, and again, we'll have 2 minutes to look at whatever you want, talk with it about your friend, your classmate, and we'll move forward from there, okay? All right. Yeah. So whether it's the spear or the club.
Is that
or the knife.
on the top? I don't know if I do much damage.
I don't think that's a weapon. So we have a few weapons. We also have a few dance sticks. So you see obviously the shape of the horse inside there, and they use those to commemorate the horse. Well, you've got a large space.
It's like push your baby down like food, but
So yeah, guys, one thing I didn't mention, if your teacher's okay with it, because they're a chaperone here, you can take a picture of the artwork. You can post it on Facebook, you can tweet it, you can show it to a friend, whatever. That's okay? Just while your phone's out, no texting, please. Take your flashes off too. It's surprising what light can do to objects that are hundreds of years old. So just beware of that. All right, guys. Let's join back together. Let's put our phones away. Like I said, when you're doing that first initial 2 minutes, or even if you're doing an activity, pull the phones out, take a picture. This is some really beautiful stuff. And it's always good to remember, okay? So, you want to come join us here real quick? All right. So, what are your general impressions? What's going on in this space?
A lot of family, like over there.
Okay.
I feel like all of that is like, it's, you know, like there's baby like carriers,
Okay.
and then there's like the mother's boots and the father's shoes, and then the woman's bag. Like it's like the home life stuff.
Okay, so you're noticing a lot of connections to family, whether it's the cradle boards for babies, the mother's shoes. You're seeing a really home life, functional home life, but also, you know, very artistic. Okay. What else? What else is going on in this space? Yeah.
I see some fans over here,
Okay.
and like they seem like they're for people of a higher status, just because, those beads are detailed, but these are like really detailed
Okay.
and have a lot more color and stuff, and then the feathers are all like really nice and taken care of, compared to like the headdress and stuff.
So we're doing a good job of connecting to the activity we just came from. You're talking about higher status because of the very intricate beadwork and also the feathers. So we saw the feather headdress back there. So the significance of the feathers only belong to a certain group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What makes this artwork similar to the artwork we've seen, whether that's with the robe and the winter count or the bags and the headdress? What connects this together with that artwork? Or what makes it different?
Well, like the patterns connected, because like the patterns seem the same, but like more broader depending on which one it is. So like on these, like it's kind of like that one, but it's kind of not. So it's like they tried to connect it, but they didn't.
So you're connecting the beadwork, maybe the detailedness between this shirt and with the fans that we saw back there, and maybe also the amount of beads, the type of beads, the coloring, things like that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They're all kind of either like a garment or a tool,
Okay.
either for war or just for, you know, like dances and stuff like that. Like over there we have the, I think that was a women's dancing skirt or
Okay.
something like that. And
Great.
it's all kind of like, you know, connected in that. There's not really anything that's like, you know, just like art in our terms.
Mm-hmm. So you're not thinking about art in our terms. Like, what do you mean by art in our terms?
Like, I mean, if you get downstairs, you can find like just a picture of like a lake.
Uh-huh.
Here, everything's like functional, or it directly tells a story.
So yeah, you're connecting. So like you said, it's functional art, whether that's warfare, maybe a religious beliefs. You said family life earlier. And it's different than just something beautiful to look at. It also serves a purpose, whether that's to identify the person who wears it, to enhance their power, as the headdress over there did, or whether it's to tell a story like the robes we were at. I want to talk about materials. So what materials are you noticing in this area? Yeah.
Well, like over there, like prominent like material that were featured was like a lot more like natural stuff, like feathers and like hair and leather and stuff. Or just maybe with the exception of that, like it's mostly like lots of like beads and like studs and like boards and just like more like man-made like intricate things.
Yeah, and that's a great connection. You go from an area where there's a lot of natural materials, hides, feathers, hair, to an area where you have a lot of man-made materials like beads. And that's really a testament to this period of exchange that American Indians went through. So before contact with European Americans, Plains Indian artists expressed themselves with natural elements, like the ones we just described. However, through trade, with European Americans, they acquired these new designs, they acquired these new materials, they even acquired these new forms. So we said beads earlier, okay? And so that's a good place to start our next activity. And this activity can be done individual or by yourself, or individual or with a group, okay? That's your decision to make, okay? And this activity, we're really going to explore this idea of exchange between Plains Indians and European Americans and how this is expressed through art, okay? And so exchange had always been present between American Indians, okay? A good example is the shirt over there. You see seashells, okay? Where do you think they got Plains Indians, landlocked, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma? Where do you think they got those?
Someone from the coast.
Yeah. Yeah, so they traded from the coast, long distance, okay? And that didn't stop when European Americans came. It increased, okay? So you have a lot of examples of exchange here, okay? So in this activity, I'm going to pass out an exchange card. I'm going to take one and pass it on. And I want you, either individually or with a partner, to identify an artwork that shows the best example of this exchange, okay? So on the back, you'll see a couple of things to guide your analysis. Think about what materials were exchanged. Think about what forms might have been borrowed. So we talked about, this shirt having the form for a male wearer. Okay, what forms may have been borrowed from European Americans? And then finally, what ideas might have been borrowed? This could be designs. This could be something that didn't exist in earlier galleries, okay? So we're going to spend about 6 minutes, okay? Once you've identified your work, I want you to just take your card and lay it by that artwork, okay? You can move out of this space and go over as far as the otter bag, okay? But look for those examples of exchange between Plains Indians and European Americans, okay? So we have about 6 minutes.
like leather, like not so detailed until like the Europeans came over and showed them and special shoes to wear, like the boots.
All right, guys, looking at the distribution of cards, let's head over to here. We've got 2 for each of these. So we'll start here, and then we'll move on over to that way, okay? All right, so we have 2 cards here. Who picked this object? Okay. And what do you see that makes you say that this object is a good example of a change between American Plains Indians and also European Americans?
The silver on the wooden plank.
Okay, so the silver on the wood, okay?
The fabric on the inside of it.
Okay. So what do you see that makes you say that that fabric is influenced by European Americans?
Like, because if you look at all the other stuff, like it's like usually like animal skin or something like that, that they use, like this is just another, whatever of the Europeans like influencing the Native Americans. And then it has like flowers on it, like flowers that, I don't know, it just,
Flowers on the side?
no, on the.
Oh, on the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, me too, it's just really different.
So it's not a natural hide like you've seen maybe in that dress or in some of the other objects. It's more of a manufactured, man-made. Hey guys, did you hear that? So she was talking about the idea that this fabric is not a hide like it might usually be in the past. Rather, it's a manufactured good that would have had to have come from European Americans. Anything else about this object? Yeah. Okay. And so the things, this is for everyone here. So the things that you identified as exchange, okay? So we've identified that exchange is happening, okay? What does that say about the artist? That they've incorporated this, you mostly mentioned materials. What does that say about the artist? This is for everyone. Do you have any ideas?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they must have been pretty into flowers.
Okay.
They use mostly like pretty like bright colors like pinks and like bright greens and cyans and whatnot.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, they're like, it's all pretty like bold and like clean lines and stuff.
Yeah, and so we've talked about individual artist expression, talking about individual artist identity, okay? And that was happening throughout this entire time. Functional objects being adorned to help express the person who created it, who would wear it, okay? And that's no different. And so when these materials came by, this flowery manufacture that the artist must have liked, when he came into contact, or she came into a contact, because we talked about beadwork being a female art, when she came into contact with these new styles, such as these, these crosses, these flowery beadwork, that they incorporated it. They didn't say that this doesn't reflect a past tradition, so I can't use it. They say these colors, these beads, these designs, they have expressive potential, and I'm going to include them in the artwork, while still maintaining this traditional form, which is a cradle board, which you'll see throughout Plains Indian art. Great. All right, let's move over to these two. And who laid these two down? You
Us,
two?
yeah.
And what are you looking at? The bag or the shirt?
We were just looking at the beads in general.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this
just a
whole
little bit
section?
of both of them. Yeah.
Okay, and what about the beads tells you that this is a good example of exchange with European Americans?
There's a little plaque that says
Okay,
that,
that's a great source of info.
Yeah.
that the Native Americans and the Europeans traded beads. I'm not sure what the natives traded for the beads, but
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a number of things. Beads were very valuable, as we can see, for artistic expression, and there were probably certain things that European Americans wanted: food, water, horses, furs. Yeah, exactly. So there was bountiful resources in North America that were traded to the Europeans, right? And so you're seeing the bead work as that example of contact. Great.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Also, just like the pattern of like the crosses is obviously kind of like European influence.
Okay. So you're noticing the crosses on this shirt?
Yeah.
Maybe imagery you hadn't seen earlier on?
Yeah.
And so you're saying that that is something familiar to you in European American culture, the cross, and that it was incorporated as a design by the artist into the shirt. So you're noticing materials becoming very abundant, and then also the incorporation, like the cradle board, of these different designs by the artist. Great. One more. Is there one more person who'd like to talk about their work? Okay, let's move over here. Okay.
This is a work club.
Hey guys, hold on a second. Hey guys, can we gather around here real quick? Closer so they listen to all of you, so let's listen to them, okay? All right.
Alright,
Thank
this
you.
is a war club that also doubles as a tobacco pipe.
Okay.
It is very functional.
Uh-huh.
When we were looking at it, we noticed that they look like thimbles right there where it's hanging down with the feathers, and there's also bells.
Okay.
And when we were looking at it earlier, we were like, well, I don't think the Native Americans had a lot of thimbles hanging around. And so we concluded that they must have traded with settlers in the area, and then they incorporated the settlers' works. They used them for their own use without using it as the settlers would.
Okay. So you can see that the form is similar. We've seen clubs, very similar clubs. You've seen pipes before. In fact, when you think about Plains Indian, you think about pipes. But you're noticing different materials, specifically those thimbles. Can everyone see? Let's gather around a little bit closer. Does everyone see the thimbles and the bells? Okay, hanging off the mouth of this creature. Okay, so as you said, those were most definitely traded and incorporated into this artwork. What do you think was the purpose behind? We haven't seen bells before. What do you think, knowing what you know about a pipe, about a club, what do you think the significance of those bells and those thimbles were?
I mean, they probably got it from settlers, and so they saw it as something that was wealthy,
Okay.
like high meaning, and so they put it on things that meant something to them.
So you haven't seen many bells, so that must mean that they have a high value and they put them on something that may have been significant or belong to an important person. Anyone else? Anyone else? Do you have anything to add, or anything else to see that connects us to European American trade? Okay. So again, traditional form, contemporary European materials, design, things like that, okay? And so, yeah, many of you guys noticed materials that were European American influence, whether that's the beads, whether that's the thimbles, the bells, any metal, okay? Many of you noticed that. Many of you also noticed different designs, whether that's the cross, the flowers, the flowery mass-produced fabric, and then you connected with the past, so these traditional forms, the cradle board, the shirt, the club pipe, okay? And that's exactly good observations, because Plains Indians identified these materials that had expressive potential, these designs that were beautiful, but they incorporated them into traditional artwork, like the club, like the cradle board, like the shirt, like the bags, like a lot of these objects here. And so that's very important connection when you connect this idea of European American influence and Native Plains Indian art. Because oftentimes you think about once European Americans come, Plains Indians, American Indians disappear. Well, that's not the case. They adapt. They incorporate new materials, new designs into their artwork. And them adapting, them surviving, is showcased through the art that they were creating. Are there any questions about this section? Any comments before we move on? Yes?
I just found it really interesting. I was looking at the bag, and in the description it was talking about the Native American church, which is something I'd never heard of before. But it was sort of this combination based on like 2 minutes of Wikipedia research. It was sort of a combination of like Christian teachings from European missionaries and sort of traditional spiritualistic practices among the Indian tribes. So there's like this whole sort of spectrum of there's some groups that rely heavily on sort of the traditional spiritualistic practices, and some that use the Bible more in their ceremonies, and so it's just an interesting...
And which object was that?
Sorry, it's this bag, tobacco bag with crosses and the morning star.
Okay, so you have the crosses, which are that European Christian influence, and then the morning star in the middle, which is that central symbol of American Indian belief. And so one thing we went quite a bit more in depth here. We didn't look at the physical characteristics. We went to the idea behind it. Okay, and you may see the symbols, but the idea behind this was not only expressing religion, but expressing a new religion that developed out of contact with European Americans. And that religion is still being practiced today. So you see this influence, not only artistic designs, but the way people think, the way people believe, and that's continued till today. Yeah, so that's a great comment. Okay. Any other comments? If I could have you guys, I can pick up this one. Docents. Due to the space and the limited selection of contemporary Plains Indian objects, a filmed inventory, so the first 5 minutes would not be beneficial for you to watch. In the tour, in the Plains Indians tour, you will conduct this stop like you do every other stop, an inventory, an activity, and a collection connection. That will accompany your VTS activity as well. Okay? All right. So we're going to take about 2 minutes, and we're just going to look at this artwork. And following that 2 minutes, we're going to have a discussion of about 10 minutes. And all I'm interested in knowing is your observations about this work of art, okay? There are no right or wrong answers. And so take 2 minutes, look at this work of art, and then we'll start a discussion, okay? You can talk quietly amongst yourselves. That's
Like a European thing. It's kind of interesting how they went to the we like it. I would assume so because like they went through the whole evolution like it's not even it doesn't really significantly especially in our culture. So it has to be yeah. Well, look at the bonfire. Okay. I'm sure you caught it. You think it is?
That's 2006
Nah, it's gotta be at least before 2000.
All right, let's come back together, okay? So, I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions. What's going on in this artwork? What do you see that makes you say that, and what more can we find, okay?
Well, it looks like there are settlers using trains, so it seems like colonization.
Okay, so you are noticing settlers in the train, and you are believing that this is a representation of some type of colonization. Okay. What do you see that makes you say that these figures are colonists or settlers?
Their clothing.
Okay? Their clothes, so you're noticing the clothing that they're wearing, okay? All right, what more can we find?
I just thought it was interesting that like they would go to the trouble of like weaving this rug, but like it's not even of their own culture. It's of like Europeans.
So you're looking at the artwork from the perspective of the artist,
Right.
and we've come from a place in which they created art that really represented them. But this image is not, you're interpreting this as not representing Native Plains Indian life, but rather maybe European settler life. Okay? What do you see that makes you say that this is a depiction of European settler life?
I didn't think it really looked like it was settlers because
Okay.
well, I mean there's like a train, so like I don't think colonists had time to put down train tracks.
Okay, so not
And then
colonists.
The fashion looks a little slightly more modern.
Okay. So these may not be, so you're saying that these may not be colonists because their clothing looks fairly modern. That nice, they're wearing a hat, a nice looking coat. So these aren't the work clothes. These aren't that you would imagine a settler or colonist wearing, right? What more can we find?
All of the people in the middle, it's mostly women, but they all look really sad. Like the woman at the bottom with the flower, she's just looking down like, oh my God, my flower. And then all of the other ones just look, they look really sad. And then like if you look at the little, the brown circles, they're not circles, but all around, octagons, yeah. Like there's a king and a queen, and it kind of looks like that's like a part of their, like, okay, I feel like it's the artist was a Native American, right? And then like the European, one of the Europeans like told them what it was like when they were, like when they left from where they came from, and then like the little octagons are like their past life from where they came from.
Okay. So you are noticing several different things. First of all, that many of the main characters in this are women and that they appear to be unhappy. Secondly, you're noticing the shapes with the figures or the images inside them around the border. And you're noticing a king and a queen and suggesting that, well, this is an American Indian artist, a Plains Indian artist. The idea, the inspiration came from a story from a settler who told about their time in Europe. Okay? And so what do you see that makes you say that this is a Plains Indian artist?
I just think that everything's really like straight. There's not a lot of curve to it. And I feel like with the Europeans, because if you look, at the art, or some of the art where you could tell that it was when they were more influenced by the Europeans, there was more like curves and stuff like that. So I just think that the way that everything is so straight.
So you're noticing the geometric figures,
Yeah.
even on the train where the wheels should be circle,
Yeah.
but they're square.
They don't have like their necks are just straight.
Just squares, okay? So you're connecting it with past Plains Indian geometric designs. Great. Yeah.
Oh.
What more can we find?
Oh, well, I don't mean to connect everything to death, but like it made like a story Like they all look sad, like they're in a funeral, like maybe an Indian war between the Europeans, and like the old woman at the bottom is crying because someone died and they have to leave because like they lost the territory. Like the Indians came and said they had to leave. Yeah, like the train and the crosses on there, like it's the European missionaries, like they're coming to get them, like go back to where they came from or something.
Okay, so you're connecting again this idea of a story, and that the expressions of these characters are sad because there's possibly been a death, it's possibly documenting a war or a battle between settlers or missionaries and the Plains Indians, okay? So what do you see that makes you say that this is a story?
Like how they have all like the octagons around, different pictures around it, and then it's like certain images in the middle, like the people and then like the cake and the house and the chickens.
Okay? So you're noticing the main characters, the different objects associated with them, and then you connect with the images around that kind of form a storyline. Great.
It's like the winter count over there.
So you're connecting it to the winter count, where I believe you commented on the storyboard nature of the winter count, in which that would be the storyline. Great. What more can we find?
I feel it has like a lot of integration of different places around the world, different cultures.
Okay.
Like how you have like the king and queen, and you have like the birds that are like the animals are native to like different countries. Like you have like the kiwi bird, like monkeys, or giraffes, gorillas. But then you also have like the people in the middle that seem as if that they're native from different places. Like you have the lady over here on the left, it looks like as if she has like a kimono on, or like, and then you have like the lady with the umbrella and like the red gloves, and you have the ladies up here who seem as if they might have been from somewhere where it's colder, and then maybe they're rich and somewhere like up north of like northern Europe or something.
Mm-hmm. So you're noticing that maybe not a connected story, but a graphic depiction of imagery and people from throughout the world, whether that's the animals on the side, we talked about the kiwi, the monkey, the camel, and then the people, you're talking about the way they're dressed, okay? So there's a lot of imagery, a lot of symbols, a lot of descriptors that are really don't connect to one story, but a lot of different cultures. Great. What more can we find? Yeah.
It's like fairly symmetrical. If you look at it down the middle.
Okay. So you're noticing the symmetrical nature of this design. So what do you see that makes you say that it's symmetrical?
Even it's not like totally symmetrical, but everything feels balanced.
Okay.
So there are elements of like perfect symmetry with the people, and how like there's one for the most part on each side.
Okay.
And then like the house at the top is balanced, not perfectly, but like weight-wise with the one on the right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it feels balanced.
So you're noticing the artist's perspective, the desire to make this image balanced with the same number of images per side. So great. What more can we find? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I was kind of thinking like the Native Americans probably made this to say that how like the king and the queen, like Europeans were greedy and they took from their own, like took the territory from their own people. And yeah, it seems like they're just having a lot of power and like this.
Yeah, so again, you're commenting on the possible narrative nature of this work. Again, the king and the queen equating with power differential, but you're connecting it with something we touched on in the last gallery, this idea that when Europeans came, Plains, because of a power difference, Plains Indians disappeared. And maybe the artist is commenting on that through the use of these images. Great. What more can we find?
The colors, like with all the other artwork, there's a lot of bright, like vibrant colors, and these are just kind of, like they're all just brown and red.
So you're noticing a different use of colors, darker colors rather than the bright, vibrant ones we saw. So great. All right, guys, appreciate your comments very much. A lot of your comments focused on the use of this as being a narrative, And that's Plains Indian art, whether in the past, whether the winter count, or even the present. Plains Indian art tells us a story about whether the individual artist who created it and also the community it was created in. Contemporary Plains artists often comment on issues going on in their lives, such as reservation life or growing up in the city. Veterans issues are very important. And then also historic issues like land rights, political rights. Those are still important. And they comment on that often through their artwork. Many of you also commented on the materials, the design. Again, Plains Indian artists, they maintain this connection to the past, which is the form of the rug, but also incorporating these new images, whether they're animals from throughout the world, or they're different people from throughout the world, or different designs. They incorporated that into their artwork as a way to express themselves. All right, so that concludes our tour. I'd like to thank you guys all for your great participation. Before we go, I know we talked a lot in the beginning about what you thought of Plains Indians. Was there anything that surprised you after taking this tour that you wouldn't have thought before, but when you leave, wow, that's something I didn't know about Plains Indians? Yeah.
The identity thing, like about the women with the beadwork, like how the women normally do the beadwork, but then while the men normally wear it, and then like they do like some work on it, but then the beads are normally just for the women would just do that. So like I didn't think that it was just the women who did the beadwork, or I thought maybe like some men did, or if it was like a mutual thing with more than one person.
Yeah, so artwork being related to identity and restricted to your identity. Great.
Like, I don't really like think that they like would have all those beads or different colors. Like, they made me feel like the natives were like, they used all the resources they had.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't waste any of them because they had a whole bunch of different colors of beads, so they kind of dyed different colors and stuff, and I didn't think they would really do that.
So yeah, connecting that idea of using all the resources to the creation of art, especially with the beads that were used. Yeah.
The integration of like European materials and ideas, I really didn't notice that. I think to me, I would not have noticed it, even though there were like crosses and stuff like right there on it.
Yeah, it's amazing that, that's great, yeah, there's definitely European influence. When you think about beads, you think about those being Plains Indians or American Indians, but how did they get them? How did they attract them, okay? All right, thank you very much, and you guys were great. We just